Well, I think we can start. Welcome everyone to this workshop. I hope that I talk in the microphone, and if you have any questions, we can repeat them or I walk by later. First, welcome. My name is Daneline. This is Saskia.
Hi.
And we would first like to tell you a little bit about our network, after which we also would like to get some input from you about several topics. So, maybe we can start with telling we met at the last World Anti-Bullying Forum, also together with a third person, Antonia. And we actually realized that the work on teachers' role in tackling bullying was slightly underdeveloped in terms of networking, and also within our departments we were usually the only ones working on this topic, whereas the rest was working on the bullies or the victims themselves, for instance. So we realized that contacting each other, and perhaps there were more out there like us, was a very important thing to also continue the research and to facilitate cooperation, and also, for instance, situations like these where you can present together or organize a symposium together. And maybe some of you have already heard of the network or already send an email that you want to be on the mailing list. If not, then at the end you will see the email address to subscribe.
Yeah, and then you're very invited to join the network. Okay.
You can talk.
Okay, so the question is, why would we even need to talk about the teacher's role in bullying? And I don't know if you attended the opening talk not this morning, but like a few hours ago, because if you attended it, then you heard about the new definition of bullying. And that new definition is more, it was also explained like in the last workshop, is more actually community-based and also places more emphasis on the school context. And so this is very in line with what we actually tried to start with, facilitating more research on teachers in, school bullying. So we know about the socio-ecological model. That's not new to us. This is just, to remind you that this is even from 2012, so it has been in our mind for a few years, and probably most of you also know that paper. And it was even obvious in 1994, who stressed that teachers are important in the bullying process. So we actually have known this for years, but there was no really structured research about it so far. I mean, teachers are mentioned repeatedly in research as being important. We know that there are role models. They are important for forming students' theory of what is wrong and right, and form the norms in the classroom and in the school and everything. But mostly, they've not been explored in detail. What we can see is that growing research interest in teachers' role of bullying within the last years, actually, and also last couple of years. We can see, like last year probably, and this year, a growing number of special issues concentrating on teachers, and we also have several single studies that focus on teachers as well. So that may be a good starting point to identify research priorities within that big context of talking about why and how teachers are important for school bullying. And maybe it is also a good starting point to advance appropriate networking. There was really the idea that, was the starting point for that whole network. Do you want to continue?
Yes. So this is a bit how we meet every now and then online, also together with Antonia from 3 different countries, and we try to update each other a little bit, and also to think about a newsletter for the network every now and then, to think about meeting at different conferences, and we also would like to involve as many of the other researchers focused on this topic or a topic that is related to that. Yeah, so a little bit about the development. To go quickly, we started in June with actually setting up the network. So that was a year after the World Anti-Bullying Forum in Dublin. We started with an email list to see, is there actually the question for this type of network, or is there no one interested in this? But it appeared that there were a lot of people actually worldwide, so not only in Europe, that were interested in following the research and also exchanging things. And also when someone has published a paper, they can send it to us and we share it in the next newsletter, so people stay updated a little bit. We try to do that every 3 months. And what we are working on now is actually how can we facilitate this future cooperation also with practitioners via a digital platform. And we're not quite sure how to, which platform we should use or which website. We are both not too experienced with setting up a website, so we're still a bit in doubt what would be beneficial, but not too time-consuming for 1 or 2 persons. And the aims of the network are, of course, sharing the research, informing each other, but also find collaboration for data collection, for writing a paper together, maybe to invite an interesting speaker to your own research group, interesting things like those, and plan international research projects. And I think here and there they are coming up. I think we can go to the next slide. But now the question is where to go from here. So the current status is there is a positive development in research, as Saskia just presented. And there is a beginning of networking of researchers. But do practitioners really benefit from this? And how can we not only top-down say, okay, here we are as researchers, we have investigated this or that and, deal with the knowledge we gained. But how can we also create a situation where there is a sort of bottom-up situation? So maybe practitioners have specific questions that they want to have more knowledge about or that they want to see tested in a more scientific way. And it would also inform us as researchers to provide a good research question or to adjust data collection, for instance. Yeah, so the key question, how can researchers identify topics that are relevant to practitioners? So that's the bottom-up, top-down situation. And also, what do practitioners need to be able to use research findings? Do they need more translation? Do we need to publish also more in journals that are not only focused on English and that are maybe not only have the scientific emphasis of presenting statistics, but more practical implications. And those are actually the things that, that we would like to also ask you, and that's also why we have this workshop. Like, perhaps there are practitioners here or researchers that have experience with translating their research more to the field.
Exactly. So what we would like to do within last 10 minutes of that short workshop was to get in contact to you and just to talk to you about these questions that we try to, suggest for this workshop. So maybe we can just have a look on who is with us at this moment. So maybe you can just raise your hand for a moment when you would group yourself more as a practitioner or more as a researcher. So maybe we can, just have a look how the audience is set together, probably. So who of you would call himself more a researcher? All right. And who of you would call himself more a practitioner? Perfect.
Balanced group.
Yeah,
nice.
Great to have you here. Thank you. And I always have the feeling that we talk, as a researcher, we often talk about, or we more often talk about what can we research and what is the next cooperation and how can we collaborate with each other. So maybe I would like to start with asking the practitioners of you. I mean, you have a reason of coming here to that conference, and so I can tell that you are probably research interested. And maybe you can tell us what is your feeling, what is the lack in research, and what should researchers also do really to collaborate better with you. So maybe you can say something about that.
Yeah.
We would probably need to hand you the microphone because then it's not possible to have it recorded. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Mia. Me and my colleague here, we're teachers in Sweden, and I'd say the reason that we're here is to learn more. So we have tools and ideas to bring home to our entire school, but the problem for us would be time. We don't have time to read essays and long text. It's not a possibility for us. So something like this, coming here, saying this for 15 or 30 minutes, that's what we need to be able to actually have the time to get new ideas.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I see another.
So you would actually need it to be summarized, yeah?
Yeah, I'm actually coming from the research site, Sanna Herkama, University of Turku, Helsinki, Finland. I was thinking that sometimes this knowledge brokering, the way from the coming from the research to the practice is quite a long way, and there's some kind of knowledge brokering needed. So I don't know if a network like this could cooperate with an organization or someone who kind of packs the science to tools or something handy in a way, that indeed it might be too much to have the scientific pieces and try to come up with something that would help in everyday practice at school, because obviously teacher's role is crucial. I totally agree, but I don't know if something like that could be incorporated, that step would be easier.
So it's about science communication then, right? Okay.
Yeah, no, I think I also agree that we can come up with all these findings and all these papers, and that was also part of my project. I didn't want to come up with like a whole booklet for teachers to read, because I knew that they wouldn't, because they didn't have the time. So I think it's also about key findings, and we can provide links if people want to read more, but it's a lot about key findings, and also our task, maybe in consultation with people from the field, to come up with like key sentences or a key model, maybe visualized, like, okay, this is what we found, and perhaps you can integrate it in this or that way in your lessons. And I also think that it's not only time to inform yourself, but if I'm correct, but at least in the Netherlands, there's also the program and the obligations of teachers are so packed that it's, like putting a whole anti-bullying program out there is just very difficult when you also have the obligations of teaching them math or science. So I also believe that we as researchers, and maybe other researchers agree or disagree, that we should think about solutions like how can we incorporate our findings in a way that it can be included in a math lesson or something, combine two tasks into one and not take too much effort, whereas on the other hand, it is still somehow in there. Perhaps there are also ideas or experiences about that.
And I also wonder how we can really communicate this information, because I know that, and probably many of you would agree, that most scientific journals do have the most important keynotes set up right before the article starts, and there also is a conclusion, and there are also practical implications, and that usually make researchers feel that they are very close to practice, but they are probably not. And I can also imagine that, even for us as a researcher, doing nothing but focusing on research all day, it is almost impossible to keep up with the current research. So I would also wonder, and maybe this is also something that the researchers among you would have an idea, what could be a good platform, and how exactly can we also transmit the information that we have, because we think about the practical implications of our research. How can we really present that to practitioners in an easy to access way? So that would be that's a tough open question for the last minute, but I don't know, maybe we can talk about this for a second, and maybe you can share your ideas on that as well.
Yeah, so very practical, more in terms of, we now have a newsletter, but we have the feeling that it could be more concrete. Should it be like a forum or a website, or I recently heard from Discord, but you have to, make an account. Like, how can we make the threshold as low as possible for as many people as possible to access it? But we don't know the right platform yet, so maybe there are experiences in other countries or communities that could help us. Any ideas?
We'd be happy to try to set it up.
So not something I've particularly done in the education field, but one of my other research areas is corrections and community corrections. And in that aspect, what we used to do is we used to reach out to the associations that were representing unions or the workers themselves, the people who are within that space. So in particular, right now, I'm trying to do a research. I'm from Canada, and there is a teachers' union in Ontario, and I'm trying to reach out to them. So they are 60,000 members strong, and all the teachers are represented through that union. And so to me, using their newsletter would be an ideal platform. Mm-hmm. And so that's a way to access them, because again, they would help you work to create the sound bites that are relevant to the teachers, and I think so that would be the kind of platform they would read, because they get those either monthly, bi-monthly, however frequently they get it. So I think that could be a suggestion. Mm-hmm. And again, it's worked very well for me in my other aspect of research, so I think maybe in education, finding those platforms, because again, I think it's pretty, I don't think it's actually reasonable for us to expect our practitioner colleagues to go and search for our articles on these obscure, sorry to all the researchers, no offense, like who's reading our journal articles? And then, like, let's please be realistic, half of them have access barriers because they can't access these journals. They're not open access journals, and the reason we can't publish in open access journals is they cost us money, and we don't have the funding as academics to apply to that, right? So again, we have to genuinely think of these barriers for our practitioner colleagues. As much as they're interested in our research, how are they actually accessing it? And then, to your point, do they have the time to read a 25-page, 10,000-word article? Sure. They don't.
So you'd so you suggest to spread the word in existing newsletters for practitioners that are already there, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's not one size fits all. I think we have to look at it from a local perspective.
I also think that this is something that we can't fix for whole Europe and even outside Europe. So yeah, I agree. It needs to be something also local. Yeah, and it's probably also the personal and individual responsibility for every researcher to make sure that practitioners can access their well-written and thoroughly thought practical implication sections, right?
Yeah, but I think maybe at a final note, I totally agree, and I really like your idea, and I think perhaps it would also help if maybe the persons present here and also the practitioners that already subscribe to our mailing list, that we can reach out to them to ask, okay, which are the associations that, most teachers receive newsletters from, or most school directors, so that we can, in the different countries that are present in our network, that we can email the right associations, because we also don't know it from every country. So, that would be a very interesting idea. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We will need to come to an end for now, but we will be here for the last, until Wednesday for the next day. So please always feel free to talk to us, and we'd be happy to talk about this in more detail with any of you. And this is the email address where you can contact us and then be on the email list for the network. And we'd be very happy to welcome you there. And we will definitely also raise this question within the next newsletter that we will send at the start of January, I think.
Yeah, and I think also for the people online, if you have any questions about the network or any ideas or platform experiences or associations that we can reach out to, please send us an email and take a picture or a screenshot. Thank you.
Thank you.